I want to give you a short little exercise in the use of the gradient colors so that you can see that all at once and get a feel for how it works. Let me remind you that I've set up what I've called in Illustrator the perfect page. That is here's the toolbox with some of the tear-offs that I use a lot. Here are the three groups of palettes with the three in each palette that is part of the palette system that I use the most. The guidelines, I've got a center guideline, I've got another line here just placed so I have a center point of reference. Remember that you go to Illustrator, Preferences, Guides, and Grid, and set up the fact that you want your guides to be light gray in color. It comes in this cyan blue. You want to be light gray in color. And the style, not lines, but dots. I'm not worried about the grid at the moment, but light gray dots gives you these unobtrusive guidelines so that you can make sure they're there. Also, by right-clicking, make sure your guide on your mouse, make sure there's a check mark by lock guide so they aren't moving around on you. If you don't have a right mouse, then just go to View and Guides and make sure. Now that check there means it's on. If I want it off, I select it and let go and it will be off. And now you can move your guidelines. Now that's good if you want to move them, but as soon as you move them, be sure and go back to guides and there's no check mark. So now I'm going to click on that. It'll make a check mark happen. And now I can move those things because you don't want them to move unless you're going to move them specifically or delete them because when they're locked in place, then when you uh, get other things going on your page, you're not moving your guides around inadvertently. All right, now the gradient business. If I take a rectangle and just lay it in here and I give it a stroke color, and let's just say I make it a dark blue. Okay, so there's the dark blue. And I clicked on the fill and I got the color picker and I did the slide on the rainbow bar until I got the blue I wanted. If I wanted orange or if I wanted green, I can go there. But I made that blue. And whoops, I changed the green. Command Z goes back one step and there it is blue. Now, the gradient, I'm going to pull the gradient out of the packet here so that I can see it along with the color. And right now that the gradient starts as white on the left and black on the right. It's a very good idea when you make gradients to have your light color on the left and your dark color on the right so that you have a better control of that. Now, if I want this to be that color, I'm going to say, click here on the gradient bar and it makes it white on the left and black on the right. If I want that to be blue, the star color. Now, remember I made the blue, and this down here in the toolbox, that's the last color I had. It was that blue. When I changed to the bar, clicked on the bar, the selected rectangle changed to that gradient. I want that to be blue, so I'm going to click on that, click, and it opens up to be black. Actually, I want it to be, oops, well, let's just find a blue in here. Now let's see here. What am I doing wrong here? I want that to be blue. It wasn't blue. Let's go back a step here and say, in my swatches, I've got blue. Now, I'm going to take this blue in my swatches and drag it to that paint bucket, and it makes it blue. Now there's another bucket over here that's white. Maybe I want it to be white, starting with white going to a dark blue. Now that means that if that blue, I'm going to copy it. Option key down makes the copy, and I'm going to take that bucket of paint and slide it over, and I have the same color blue. What I want to do is take that last blue, click on it twice, click, and it opens up and shows me my color sliders. And I'm using this cyan, the magenta, the yellow, the black formation of color in Illustrator. I'm going to add some black to that blue. Now what happens is it makes it a very dark blue, navy blue, by adding like 50% black by sliding that slider. I've got all the blue and all the magenta and a little bit of yellow. I guess I don't need all that yellow, but but a little bit of black. That makes it a very dark blue. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and say, all right, I have that, whoops, Command Z. So I've got this dark blue and medium blue. Now I'm going to take this bucket here, and I have to make another bucket and bring it there. And I'm going to click on that twice. And now I'm going to slide out some of the red and some of the blue, the percentages, to make it a lighter blue. So you can see what I've got going here. Dark blue, not so dark blue, lighter blue, and almost white blue. If I go to that bucket, I might not want total white. You know, here's white. I'm going to put white in that bucket right there. Well, let's see. You know what I've done? I put one bucket on top of the other and slide that bucket over there. All right, now this bucket, boom, boom, I want it to be this really light blue that's here. I'll just drag that over and put it there. Okay, now I'm going to open that bucket paint and take out some more of the blue. I want it to be not white, but a lighter blue. Okay, so I click back on the main little gradient thing here, and there's my light blue, medium blue, darker blue, way dark blue. And you can see the span that I've got there. Now it's going to be in this linear mode right now, and I'm going to save that. See, I got swatches open. And the color I've got, and it'll also show me down here my gradient and my fill color. I want to save that. So I'm going to hit this little button right here in the swatches, and it makes a new swatch. And I could give it a name if I wanted to, but I don't really need to. It's just the blue I'm using, and there it is right there. Now I'm also going to save it as the radial. I'll change that to radial and see there it comes. There's a radial, light in the middle, out to the dark. That's why I like my light on the left, so that when you make something, your light's in the middle as it goes out to the radial. Now I'm going to save that too. So there is a new swatch with the linear and the radial. Now what happens is that I can now take my color control and the gradient, this tool right here, the gradient tool, and wherever I click and drag in the radial version, it puts the light in the middle and goes from there out. And you can see you can decide where you're going to place it. Or I can go back to the linear color, and it's going from left to right. I can click at the bottom with my gradient tool, click at the bottom of the rectangle and go from south to north, and it goes that direction. Or I can start short, or I can go long all the way across, or I can start outside and go outside, and then I only get the middle value showing there because the white's up in here and the dark blue's down in there. I can go diagonally across. I can go straight across. You know, now wherever I start, the light is going to be the start, and then it goes to the dark. And so if I want the light on the right, I have to go the other way. But it's good to have the light on the left to start with, so you know where you're going. So you can make all kinds of effects out of this thing as needed. Now, if I say, okay, I want it to be light on the bottom and go, now you see that's an angular. That's an angular. If I go straight up with this thing, the color will go straight up. And I've got the airbrush look going there. Now, if I make another shape here, I'm going to take a circle and put a circle here. With the Shift key and the Option key down, the circle grows from the center out. And I'll go to the gradient, or I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the radial, and there it is, light in the center. But I can adjust this as if the light was coming from the upper left, and whoops, I'm not doing that right. I got to take the gradient tool, and then go from the hot spot, like on a billiard ball, down to the shadow. And when you get that done, then you can see the hot spot, the light, to the medium, to the dark blue shadow. That gives you a three-dimensional look. So that's how you control your gradients to be what you need it to be. Now let's make another shape here and change our colors and just review what we've done here. If I go back to my gradient, I want this to be red. Here's my gradient slider. Let's just take this dark maroon off the swatches and put it in that bucket. And then take this red and put it in that bucket. Then take this orange and put it in that bucket. And take this lighter orange and put it in this bucket. So I'm light on the left, and it's going across. I'm going to save that in my swatches. And then I can readjust this and make, whoops, I don't want to draw another one. I want to take my tool, gradient tool, and there's the hot spot, and go from there. If I want to adjust that, maybe I need a hotter hot spot. I'm going to make this bucket, slide these buckets across a little bit more, and I'm going to take the option key and do another bucket slide copy, but that bucket, pink, pink, I'm going to make it white, which means take out all the color on the slider bar. Or I can just hit the white here. Here's white, here's black. All right, so I've got that going on for me. Now remember I made a change, so I have to come back up here and say new swatch, and I get the whiter dot in this. If I don't want that color anymore, I can just drag it over here and that little trash can, it goes away. But now I come back to my tool here in my gradient, and I do this sort of thing, and I get a hotter white spot there. So I've added a little white to the orange. You see it's white for a while, then it's orange for a while, then it's darker orange, then it's red, then it's maroon. And so you get that happening for whatever you're working with. Now, there again, too, I need to save this as a radio, deselect this so it doesn't change it. And then I'm going to say linear and save that as a linear. There it is. And so if I have something that's not a circle, and I want it to be light on the bottom, it comes in from left to right. So I'll come automatic. I'll come from bottom up, and I get that happening. And there we are. So if you get something like, you remember that lightning bolt. If I want to use the lightning bolt out of the Desert Storm, I'm making a quick drawing here. I'm doing what you should not do, draw with a fill, but I'm just doing that for quick. Okay, so now what I can say is I want this thing to be the hot spot at the flash of the lightning, and then I want it to get darker as it goes up into the shape. And so now I have the gradient. Now if this thing is over the blue, it makes it you can see it better than over white. But there is my shape. And remember in drawing, if you've got a point you don't like, you can work these things one at a time with your little white arrow to make it a little more balanced, a little more even. But I've got the white to orange to whatever into the maroon or darker, and I've got my gradient thing working. Think of this as an airbrush. Think of this as 2, 3, 4, any number of colors that you want to get here. Generally, you're going from light to medium to darker to darky to darkest along this stroke. And you can control how fast it goes by where the buckets are. If the buckets are closer together, then the color changes faster. This is something you can practice with and just make little shapes and billiard balls and go after it. And then you'll find that it's very useful in what you're dealing with.